Mm.
I'm obsessed with that. Like that's one of the first things I love to do when I start building the canvas for any song is like who's living where, not only left, right, but front to
Front to
back.
back.
And
Yeah.
I love that. Um,
Do you think of that as like
and
a
there's so
reverb
many ways
thing
to
or
do
as
it.
like a volume thing or a bit of both?
I think everything like it's volume, it's frequency response,
Right. Right.
probably those two first, and then it goes into like what kind of reflections are happening, and is it reverb sound, is it delay sounds, like how are
Right.
we moving things and pushing them. Something that is very close to you, like has more low end presence, has a little more high end presence, and all that. But as it moves away, it thins out, and all those things. You start hearing the space around it, and yeah,
Hmm.
that's one of my biggest passions, and it's tangent a little bit, but it's exactly like what I used to place vocals in the mix too, and it's that early decision thing of like, what do I want this to sound like, but uh you can't have an upfront vocal without having something behind it, obviously. And let's say it's a pop tune. This is I really learned this from Fab too, but if it's a pop tune, you want the vocals the center stage, right? So let's say this is the vocal, but how do you know that that's center stage? It's like, well, the snare drum can't be in front of it, right? So if the snare drum's back here, now the vocal's on top. So one of the ways that I'll place like a pop vocal is if I've got my kit balance already kind of set up, it's like vocal has to live in front of the snare. Vocal has to live in front of the snare. And then once I've got it, like, you're moving the fader up and it's kind of doing this. And then like once you lock it into the right depth, you're like,
Hmm.
that's how loud the lead vocal is supposed to be. But you'll feel like when it's at the right distance front to back versus other elements in the mix. And like that's basically how I make my decision about like how loud should the lead vocal be,
Wow.
which is also one of the most asked questions on Pure Mix or whatever from the community.
Yeah. So just right in
It's
front
very
of the
loud.
snare drum.
Yeah, yeah. Or if it's, if I'm mixing like a Foo Fighters thing, like the snare drum's going to be here, the guitars are going to be like here, like out in front, and the vocal's going to be back here somewhere.
Right.
Like kind of thinking about that. And sorry for doing it with the camera. Podcasters can't see that, but
Yeah. Unless I post this as a highlight, in which
yeah,
maybe I will.
yeah,
That could be fun.
yeah.
Y-
The Foo Fighters example, I had like the guitars as the most front thing, and then the snare is like behind that, and then the lead vocal's a little behind that.
Right.
And if you think about the emotion of that too, like a pop vocal is way different than that. It's the opposite. But in a rock thing, if the vocal is slightly tucked behind the band, behind the snare, that emotion is like that band is loud as hell, right? And if the singer is screaming his ass off, but you hear him behind the snare drum, that is rage, right? Like that's like
Mm.
energy and excitement and all that. So
Yeah.
again, like front to back, like balancing is the important thing. That's the word that we say a lot of times. But if you think about that in terms of front to back, like where is everybody in relation to me? Not in
Mm.
a like how do I see them on the stage way, but like where do I hear them or whatever. You
Yeah.
can change the emotion of a mix completely with that. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's interesting. I
I
need to
love that.
think about what balance means in terms of emotions and that kind of sense more, and kind of maybe listen to some more records and think about that. That's
Yeah.
really neat.
Yeah.